Hello, everyone. This is Ross from Retro Dream Beam. I'm an eBay seller full time. I've been doing this with my fiance Netta for a couple years now. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm about to go into what we were shipping out today on Monday. So it's like a roller coaster of a weekend. I think our Saturday was like one of the worst we've had in many, many months. But then like Sunday and like the back end of Friday was okay. All right, so I'm just going to jump into it because we're short on time. So the first thing is Saruman, Servant of the Eye. This is one of the Lord of the Rings trading card game rare cards right here. We got a bunch of these Lord of the Rings cards. They've been slowly selling. I looked up to see which rares were worth listing alone. The other ones I did lots, and then the decks I kept as decks. This ended up selling for $5 and plus shipping. All right, moving along is going to be this Warhammer 40K. This is kind of like a little booklet right here. Warhammer 40K Kill Team booklet, I think, is when you play with less units rather than like a full table full. You do like a small little skirmish amount. I'm not too sure what these books are other than maybe some updates or some like scenarios you can play, maybe some paint jobs of some of the figures. This sold for $10.04. All right, next up is going to be a cool little baggie of these four, like, I don't know if I can take them out. You guys won't be able to see anyways, but they're like these little tiny spider figures, like plastic figures. They're ready to be primed. They have a couple like eyeballs. They have like little fuzzy backs. So yeah, they're ready to use for like an RPG game, like a fantasy one. Pretty cool figures, like the little miniatures. Those sold for $6.50. All right, next up is going to be a repeat buyer. This is a lot of 4 board game like silicone. I think that's what they're like, the material. These are going to be like some kind of board game little trays or accessories. These are by the company Board Game Geek, which they have like a massive website where you can look up board games and rate them and find out information. They also sell their own accessories. So yeah, I think this is some kind of like tray, and this edge right here holds cards. I'm not sure what these little nooks and crannies holds. Maybe like your resources. If you're playing a game, you have like wood, metal, lumber, all that stuff. You would like keep it there. And then there's also these two little, the silicone kind of like sticks together. These small little dice trays. I think you like button them up on the corners, and then you have like a small little dice tray. So instead of rolling dice and they go flying all over the table, you just like roll them into a little bin, or you can use them as like little token holders for games. So $13.49. I like to grab like the board game accessories. People do end up liking them and using them. I have like my own that I use for various games and stuff. All right. Next up is going to be an empty box. This is the Mew figure from Pokemon. This is for the Pokemon trading card game. This is Sword and Shield Fusion Strike is the set. This is just like their Elite Trainer box. This is just the empty box. I sell the Mew one a lot, probably because the colors pop. It's like a purple and a pink, and the set was pretty decently like popular. It was like in the middle of the road for popularity, but people also love Mew. $7.50. They can store their cards. They can have it on like a display shelf like behind them. All right, next up is going to be some bags for, I think, like an expensive hotel, the Peninsula in Chicago. So this is like just like a gift bag that they give you. I forgot, I think someone gave this to us, or we got it cheap in a estate sale. And this is a, I think it's called a shoe cover or something. So yeah, just $5 for this. Nothing too fancy, but we do sell like bags, boxes, all that kind of stuff. Just like kind of like how we sold this empty box. I don't like to throw it away, and I'll use bags if I can use them, but if I can't, I end up just listing them, especially when they have like a brand on there, like the Peninsula from Chicago. All right, next up is going to be Color Coup cards. This is like a color Sudoku game. This is just the cards. It's not the board, so I mentioned that. So yeah, really cool. So you play with colors instead of numbers. I think if you want to play with numbers, you could. This sold for $14.99. I always grab those like small little like box card games and board games. All right. Moving along, I just listed all the Flesh and Blood cards that I got recently. This is Vestige of Soul. This is going to be a foil. I think it's a legendary card, so that's going to be above rare. I don't know if it's majestic then legendary or legendary then majestic. I've only demoed the game a couple of times, but I do know this. So this is a chest armor piece. So yeah, I went through all of the singles that were worth listing individually. This one sold for $20. It was on offer, so normally you can do eBay standard envelope for $20 or less, but I actually had it listed for more, so they end up paying a little bit more for shipping, so we're going to ship it in a better thing than just the envelope, because that's what they paid for. But at $20, you can ship it eBay standard envelope, which we've had pretty good luck with it. All right, moving along, we have this No Box ESCI. That's the company. It's like a tank. I didn't know what tank it was. Normally, like on the sides of these sprues, they'll have like the name or something like that. I think I only saw ESCI as the company. So yeah, I just took good pictures and I just put tank, and someone figured out which type of tank this is from what war or whatever. But yeah, people like these kits, even without the box, $14. We will sell them with the box with like incomplete pieces. People really like that kind of stuff. All right, next up is going to be something that we haven't sold in a while, but we used to sell a bunch. This is a Spooner Area Lake region map right here. So yeah, we used to sell a bunch of these little brochures and maps. They were like really good for us in the first few years of eBay. I think the only reason why we don't sell as many now is because I've listed all the ones that we've ever had, and we haven't really found more or dug into it. But this is kind of something that I like to get, like when someone has like a big tote of it, and then they usually want to just get rid of it or sell it for really cheap. I will go through and list all of them. So yeah, this sold for $8. We've gotten more for like ones that are like hotel branded, and I know there's like a lot more stuff with that, like that do better than just the regular maps. But yeah, someone might just be nostalgic for the time period, or maybe they're in one of the pictures, or they just like the nostalgia and they want to go through the booklet and remember all the events that these places had. All right, moving on along is a repeat buyer right here. This is a lot of 40 streetlets are the miniature brand. These are British troops. This is supposed to have, I think, 45 figures. 5 of them someone had like popped off of their little sprues. And then on the back here, you can't really see it, but someone had cut off the front and back of the box. So that's how I knew how to identify them. This sold for $20.99. The person asked me a question. They were asking like what figures were missing. And then I responded, but as I hit send on the message, like, oh, hey, I think there's 5 figures missing. It's not complete. They were like, oh, I bought it anyways. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad they're excited. All right, moving along, we have Star Wars, Mr. R2 Potato. So Mr. Potato Head. So this is a mix between R2D2 from Star Wars and Mr. Potato Head. Never knew that this thing existed. This is kind of like one of those things we get in like throw-ins or big bulk buys. You kind of get stuff. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll sell that. Someone might want it eventually. It's sold for $14.25, which I think is really good for this. It is a pretty good like shelf piece, and someone, if they want to play with this as a toy, it does look like it'll be a lot of fun for them. All right, moving along. This one looks super cool. Minuscule right here. Check out this like cool. It's like a tin board game. I really like the front. This is by Asmodee. They've done a bunch of good board games. They've also done a bunch of bad, but I just like this. It's about bugs and stuff like that. It has kind of like a Pixar art. There's a bunch of, it looks like you're doing some kind of like race or something. Minuscule because they're small. So yeah, this does not have the rule book. It sold for $7.50. I'll still list the board games even without rule books, because speaking of the Board Game Geek, that's their trays. They have a good website where you can just like, people usually have like PDFs you can just like print up or look up on the fly if you don't have the rules. All right, moving along, we have another board game thing. We had like a board game like dry spell for selling stuff. Like we sell stuff occasionally, but today it feels like we got a lot more sold in the board game category. So this is Seventh Continent board game. I think this is like a promo. I want to say art book or something. Here, let me actually click on my listing because I don't fully remember. It says it's some kind of cartographer's notebook, like promo. So I don't know if there's actual game content in here or if there's a bunch of lore. So Seventh Continent is a board game. We spent about like 20 hours on it. You end up playing as survivalists on an island, and the island's represented by these little square cards, and they get placed down. And as you move your characters along the map, you lay down more square cards. It's a big box of these square cards. It's a lot of weight. We've shipped like the base game on the channel before. But yeah, the goal is to solve like a curse, and the curses are basically different ways to start the game. So there's like 5 or 6 in the base game. There's probably a bunch of fan-made ones. There's a bunch of expansions. It's a pretty long game, but yeah, you're trying to survive and solve the curse, and you're kind of given like little clues, but you don't know exactly how to do it. So this is, like I said, this is for that game. It's either like, it's called the Cartographer's Promo, so there might be stuff in here you can use, or there's a lot of lore with these board games. Yeah, a lot of board games have a lot of stuff you can like dig into extras if you really like the board game. All right, next up is going to be a strategy guide book. We've done pretty well with these. I got a bunch recently. Had a big combo order a couple weeks ago. Gold edition, Aliens vs. Predators right here. Never play this particular video game, but I do like Aliens. I also do like Predator, like Aliens as in like the actual genre, like not genre, the movies, right, from the 90s. Predator's cool. I like Predator a lot more. All right, so this one ended up selling for $9. This didn't have any like extras or anything, but sometimes strategy guide books do have extras, but people like them. All right, next up is another little map. Like I said, we haven't sold these in a while. We got Afghanistan, Land in Crisis. This is from National Geographic. This is like one of their little inserts right here. So yeah, it's just from one of their magazines. Sometimes I get the magazines separate, and sometimes I just randomly find the little maps that someone must have like taken out of their collection at the time. So yeah, this sold for $6.99. This was also in the same bin as the, what was it, like the Spooner or whatever? Yeah, I'm not sure what place this is right there. If I had to take a guess, I would say, is that Michigan? No. In Indiana? Oh no, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, there you go. All right, next up is going to be something also kind of interesting to me, because when you get like a bunch of stuff, sometimes you get things in containers. So these are really cool. They stood out to me. They're like a shiny blue, and there's also a silver part, and it just opens up completely. They're just like storage container tins. It didn't have any like brand on them. I just thought that they stood out. I was originally going to probably like donate them, but then I was like, oh, maybe I can use them. But then they just seemed like I couldn't think of anything I can put in them. Like miniatures would probably break in their cards. Probably not a good idea to have them shuffling around. So I sold a lot of 6 of these, which is also cool because I got room for listing it in that bin today because this took up a lot of space. I mean, this sold for $21. I'm really glad someone is going to appreciate them. I think they look cool. They're pretty good material. They open up. They're pretty useful. Yeah, I generally keep all of the storage containers and stuff we have. And then there's also like a bunch of board game ones, card game ones, these generic, these probably aren't, these are just generic. I'm not sure they can be for anything, you know, whatever you want them for. Like I said, $21 for 6 of them. So I'm glad someone's going to grab those. All right, next up is going to be more board game promos right here. A game I haven't played. So these are Core Worlds. Yeah, Core Worlds Galactic Orders. It has like the little paper thing around it. So, you know, it's like sealed, but not really. I guess like I can slide these cards out right here. So you probably can't see them too much. This has like a really good like linen feel to it. Like I said, I haven't played this board game, but people like promos and stuff. And I can tell this company put care into their game based off of how the cards feel. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. All right, $8.10 for this. All right, next up is going to be a combo order for Monster Apocalypse, which is also awesome. Not the figures. I've shown you guys the figures before. So this right here is the map. So you play this game on a gridded square. It's like 1-inch squares or something. So this is like their little paper maps. You keep track of your monsters and dice. I think like when your little small units get KO'd, you put them to the side and they can respawn. So yeah, you are playing on I'm not going to open this up fully. So this is double-sided. They do have names. One's like Road to Run and the other one's like, what is it, Mean Streets? Yeah, some kind of generic name. So there you go. But yeah, this is going to fold out. It's going to be pretty, it's a pretty big map. That's why I can't fold it out all the way right here. And then they also bought these little building ruin cardboard markers. So you've seen me sell the buildings before. You place the buildings and the monsters and the kaijus can like knock each other into them. The buildings also have special abilities. When they get destroyed, they also can become on fire, and then you remove the building and you show that there's ruin there. Sometimes they just have like a blank ground side where they're not on fire. So yeah, there's a lot of little like small rules to this game that's sold. These are like accessories for it, $14.75. It says it's their repeat buyer, but when someone does a combo order, it's a repeat buyer. So I'm not sure if they bought Monster Apocalypse stuff from us before. All right, next up is going to be some Warhammer 40k data cards, Spaceballs right here. I'm not too sure what these data cards are. I got a bunch in an auction a bit ago. It was from all those bits and pieces I was selling. So I think this just adds, it says in the back, like tactical objective cards, including 6 unique Space Wolf cards. So yeah, I'm assuming there's like different objectives in the game. I've technically never played Warhammer 40k and only very little bit of Warhammer Fantasy, but it was just too expensive when I was a kid. So I just never really got into it. This sold for $9.74. All right, next up, I think that's for 7th edition. I think they're on 8th edition right now, but people still like the old cards. All right, this is a German version of the game for sale. Schmid company right here. Really cool. I love getting these like foreign games. It's awesome. It has all these little cards. There's like an igloo, different places. You're probably buying different places. And then there's like cool little fake money. I really like this kind of stuff. I like selling it. I think it's really cool that there's like, we do really well with the foreign games. This sold for $23.62. People always pass up on them, obviously, because they're just thinking like, oh, American English, whatever. But we always do super well with the foreign board games. And also, sometimes these are like games that you can probably only get elsewhere. So like they are unique. People do like to collect all kinds of board games. And even technically, I could probably pick that up, look up like the English rules, translate it real quick, and play the game, right? As long as it's not like a massive, like, you know, 100-page rule book game, you can learn it even if you don't know the language. So really cool. All right. Next up, we have this Ouija's Hallowed Night. I have no idea. This looks so ridiculously campy. It looks like there's like some kind of like little gremlin right here. Yeah, another little gremlin guy, some Dracula guy, but he's creepy. This thing looks like it's trying to be Chucky. We got a bunch of these like campy horror movies a bit ago. What? Oh, this is Full Moon. This is by Full Moon. They do a lot of ridiculous stuff. It's a special retro edition. All right, this ended up selling for $11. So yeah, I'm not sure why our Full Moon Halloween DVDs have been popular in the past month or two. I've had them for a while listed, and they do slowly sell before we start recording on YouTube. All right, Next up is a Khador figure, Orsis Zoktavir, the Butch of Kardov Warcaster right here. So this is a metal figure. The Khador faction is going to be like the Russian faction. You can tell by its like name, as I'm trying to struggle through pronunciating it. But yeah, Warcasters are like your main leader. If they get knocked out, you lose the game. And I think there's another role if you defeat enough of the enemies, they also get knocked out. But these are the characters that do all of the special abilities. They're not necessarily more expensive for selling and stuff like that. It's just that's just what the Warcasters are. That ends up selling for $16.49. All right, next up is going to be an RPG book, Sword and Sorcery, Relics and Rituals right here. I actually have a note. This is hardcover. I have a note to myself to relist and take pictures of another one just to make sure that, like all the edges are okay, the same, the corners, the first few pages, you got to check. I don't want to have like a return because I forgot to see that someone scribbled a pen on it. So this is like the sealed one that I had, and then this is like the one that I'm going to list next. So let's see if I can find like a picture or something. So I'm assuming there's just like a bunch of different like extra things you can add to your game. So there's like some kind of monk character right there. Let's see, there's not too many pictures in this one. So I see like a lot of weapons and stats here. I'll just show you. Just as like first level characteristic stats and stuff like that. So yeah, people really do like adding. I'm trying to find a cool picture. All right, here you go. There's like also some like warlock with the staff attacking someone over here. So I have to take new pictures for this one. This one sold for $8. I have a bunch of this particular book. It's okay. It's really easy for me to relist. All right, moving along, we have a Stardock miniature. I got a bunch of these miniatures by Stardock. Where is it? I have a lot of stuff all over the place right now. This one's really tiny. Here it is. Sorry. It's coming. All right. I don't know if you can see it, but it's going to be like this little spaceship miniature. I think this Stardock was either a shop or distributor, packaged up like metal miniatures, maybe loose ones that they had, and then they were selling it to businesses where they can sell it to people, I think. So it was really cool that I got like a unique piece of like a business-to-business history or like a shop piece of history. This sold for $22. I have a ton of those miniatures. I listed a ton, and at some point I was like, I'm just going to work on something else and go back to them later. So yeah, someone's going to enjoy this like rocket spaceship one. I'm not sure like what that rocket or spaceship one is, but it looks like a cool little figure for like spaceships. There's not too many spaceship things out there. There's like Command Zone, Warhammer 40Ks in space, but they have bigger miniatures. I can't think of any other space games. I know there's a couple other. I just can't. I'm drawing a blank right now. All right. What's this book called? Udenarde? I'm probably butchering this. Udenarde right here. This hardcover book is next. Ended up selling for $18.75. I apologize if I'm saying this historical like book wrong. It's by Christopher Scott. I don't know anything about it, but I do know like the stuff that stands out military wise for us or historical. We do pick up, we do well with. This ended up selling for $18.75. And then kind of the last thing, it's just for eBay. The last thing right here is going to be a lot of 22. These are green bases for miniatures. So you put the miniatures on top of the base. These are 45 millimeter by 60. So it's either like a little squad or it's going to be like a bigger like artillery, cannon, vehicle. So yeah, these are just the bases, $19.49. I got a ton of these. I don't think we recorded like me going through the bin because it's just been a bunch of different sizes of bases. So I didn't think it'd be exciting to watch. But I was excited to get a bunch because I made a bunch of lots that day, like 40 or 50 different lots, because I know people need those kind of things. And then people care about like the color of the base. They care about the thickness. They care about the size. If you want to put like a vehicle on something, it has to be on a bigger one. All right, $19.49. So that's everything for eBay. But then I think we had some sales on Bonanza and Mercari. I don't know which items are for what and what they sold for. So I'm going to take some guesses right here. So the first thing is this 1960s. It's like a lady. She's like dancing or singing or something like that. It's a really interesting piece. Hard to tell probably from camera. It has like a weird, like almost like a felt texture on it or something. Got these with all the Mark's toys and those little toys I got from the storage unit flipper. This was in the bag of, like I said, with army men and stuff. So I think this sold for like $6 or $7. That one stood out to me in that whole bunch because it just looked different. I couldn't figure out like what play set it was from or like what brand. It was good quality, even though I think it's from like the 60s. Yeah, just based off of what like it looks like, how it feels, and like all the other stuff in that bin was from that time. All right, next up is going to be a lot of Munchkin promo bookmarks and a card. So someone reached out, I think in Mercari, and another dealt with it. There's going to be 4 of these bookmark promos. Beginning of the Munchkin game, you lay out some bookmarks. Everyone gets to like, I think pick back and forth. You get like 2 or 3, and also you can add any kind of promo cards to your game. This one's from Super Munchkin. At first, and I thought this one wasn't real Munchkin. I'm like, no, Munchkin has like a ton of different genres, IPs. They have anything from like zombies, Marvel, superheroes. They have Ninja One. They have a lot, and people do like them. I remember when we were into it many years ago. My brothers and I, we like mixed and matched a bunch of different types. We had the ninja type, pirate type. The pirate one was funny. All right, people do like that stuff. I want to say this sold for like between 20 to 40, probably more around like the 30, 40 for 4 bookmarks and the card promo. That's my guess. Like I said, Annetta dealt with all this and we haven't talked about it yet. All right, next up is going to be this piece of art. This thing is called, let's see what this one's called. This is Pate's Baroni. So this went through a journey. So I remember Annetta grabbed this when she was at thrifting or Goodwill or something. And then when she came home, I was like, why'd you get this? This is like before we did any kind of art stuff. And she's like, no, I looked it up. It's worth a lot. She listed it for a lot. And then at some point it did sell for a lot. And we were both excited. So she was like, oh yeah, I told you. And I'm like, okay, I just didn't know what it was. And then the person got it. So all this was pictured. The issues with this little paper wasn't the issue. So they ended up saying this is not real. And they thought it was going to be like an original from an artist. So then we had an immediate return. So it caused a lot of like, groans and pains. It was really obnoxious. It was obvious this was not original. I checked her listing at the time. Everything was clear. This was just like a print. It's just like, framed and matted, which is still pretty good. And now it's sold again on Mercari for, I want to say like 28 or 30, but yeah, she originally sold it in the hundreds or something like that originally because the person thought it was an original. So yeah, lots of drama with that particular thing for just Annette and I, not for anyone else, but yeah, thought it was worth mentioning, early eBay days for us. I'm glad to, if we sell it, it ships and they don't return it. We finally get our return money back from back then, but shipping was cheaper back then. So yeah, plus side, downside, it evens out. All right. And then also we sold this City State of Casteridge right here. This is Frog God Games, some kind of RPG setting. So yeah, this one is just going to be a map. This is special because someone took the time to laminate it. So yeah, that means like you can dry erase on it, or it's just like good quality, right? The paper's not going to get ripped up unless if you really try to bend this thing. So yeah, that I have no idea for how much that one sold for. If I had to take a guess, between 10 to 25 on the other platform. All right. And then last up was the Pokemon, the 2 tin pack right here, or I guess 3 pack. They call it as the treasure chest tin right here. You have the 2 Pokeballs. The person sent messages, I think on Bonanza or something like that, where they wanted to make sure that there was a quick ball. So the quick ball is going to be over here. It's the blue and yellow one. They also wanted the combo with the red Pokeball. These different tin sets, this was Costco, I think, from 2021. They will have different Pokeballs. All the packs and cards, I'm 99% sure, are the same. So, but these Pokeball tins, they end up being containers, actual storage containers for the cards. They look cool on a shelf. Really cool thing that I think they did. I don't know when they started that. I want to say like 2017, 18-ish, they started doing these Pokeball tins, maybe slightly before that. I'm like, oh, that's so good. Like, because like normally there's these boxes that kids will like toss out and throw away, or parents will toss out, not realize that these are storage as well. So yeah, the Pokeballs are less thrown out and they still hold cards. They can also hold like coins and probably toys for kids and stuff. So it doesn't have to be just the cards. I think you can technically hold a deck. I know at one point